Hi, I'm John and welcome back to my channel. And in today's video I'm going to be showing y'all just how simple and easy it is to subtract fractions. Alright, before we get started, I want y'all to look at this and I want y'all to write this down. Alright, copy this. Pause this video right now and copy this down. Okay, you're going to see 1/16, 2/16, 1/8, 3/16, 4/16, 2/8, 1/4, 5/16, 6/16, 3/8. You're going to see 8/16, 4/8, 1/2, 9/16, 10/16, 5/8. All right, I want you to write this down. All right, I want you to copy it. All right, as you can see, I erased that number line. I wanted y'all to write that number line down so that y'all have something to reference back to. Okay, so as I do this, y'all have something to look at. Okay, now follow along with me. Look at your number line and follow along with me. All right, it goes by twos. 2/16 equal an eighth, 2/8 equal a quarter, 2/4 equal a half, and 2/2 equal a whole. Okay, remember that. So let's get into subtracting. 9/16 minus 3/8. Let's do that. All right. We know 9/16 is larger than 3/8. Right? So we know we're not going to have a negative number. I'm not going to do negative numbers in these videos. Okay? I'm not going to do it. We're going to stick with positive numbers. Negatives just mess everything up. It's like 2/3. 2/3 will screw everything up for now. So let's just do this. We know 9/16 is larger than 3/8. How do we know? 9 is larger than half. How do we know? Because 8 is half of 16. 3/8 is smaller than half. How do we know? Because 4 is half of 8. Right? Look at your number line that you wrote down. Right? Look at where 9/16 is. It should be 1/16 more than half. Look at your 3/8. It should be down just above a quarter. Right? So we know we can subtract and get a positive number. 8, we got to turn that 8 into a 16. So how can we do that? Well, all we got to do is times it by 2, right? We can make this 16 and we can make this 6. So we have 6/16. Now we subtract straight across, right? 9 minus 6 equals 3. And we keep our bottom number. So our answer is 3/16. Right? We're taking a little over an eighth away. Right? We end up with 3/16. Right? We can do 3/4, right? Minus 1/4, but the bottom numbers are the same, right? So it just gives us 2/4. And what is 2/4? It's half, because 2 is half of 4, right? So subtracting with the numbers being the same on the bottom is simple. All you got to do is subtract your two top numbers. But when your bottom numbers are different, that's when you have to make them the same. So let's do, I gotta quit writing so high. I'm not gonna be able to see it. So let's go 3/4 minus 3/4 minus what? Let's say 5/16. Okay. 3/4 we know is larger than half because 3 is larger than 2 and 2 is half of 4. 5/16 we know is smaller than half. We know it's smaller than half because 5 is smaller than 8 and 8 is half of 16, right? So we know we can subtract across without having a negative number, right? But we got to turn this into a 16. We got to make this smaller number the same size as this larger number. So how can we do that? Well, that's 4 times, right? 4 plus 4 equals 8, right? That's 4 2 times, right? And then 8 plus 8 is 16, right? That's 8 2 times, right? So basically we're still going by 2's here, right? 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16. So but that's 4 times, right? So we get 16. Now we have 12 up here because we times the bottom. What you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top, right? Remember that from school? What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 3 is 12. So now we have 12 sixteenths. What is 12 minus 5? It would be 7, right? So our answer is going to be 7 sixteenths. This is how easy it is to subtract fractions. It's really that easy, except for when you get into 2/3. And I know some of y'all are probably going to be going, well, what about 2/3 or you know, thirds? Well, 2/3 put a wrench in everything. When you do 2/3, you're going to have to do the long math. All right. So if you have 3/4 minus 2/3 equals, right? Let me see. I'm probably writing too high, aren't I? No, I'm doing all right. I'm all right. It's all right. So we know 2/3 is smaller than 3/4, but it's larger than half. What would be 2/3? Threes go by threes, okay? The thirds, all right? You got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, okay? That's what these go by. They go by threes. These go by twos, all right? When you see American Standard sockets, you see them in sixteenths, quarters, eighths, halves. You know, you see them sixteenths, eighths, quarters, halves, and wholes. You know, and you even see them in 30 seconds. So you know, you get down smaller than the 16th, you get into the 30 seconds because it takes 2 30 seconds to make a 16th. Okay. You don't see thirds because it's too much of a hassle to try and think by threes. Okay, it's a lot harder to think by threes. So, I mean, if you've got a socket that's 2/3, I'd really like to see it because that's very, I've never seen one, all right? But to subtract 2/3 from 3/4, you've got to do the math the long way, right? Which means you're going to have to turn these into 12, right? This is going to have to be a 12, and this is going to have to be a 12. 4 times 3 equals 12, right? So now you've turned your 4 and your 3 into 12. Well, what you do down here, you got to do up here, right? So you got to take this 3 that you times down here and times it up here, so you get a 9. And then you times this 4 to this 3 to get this 12. So you got to do 4 times 2 up here to get 8, right? Now you can subtract your cross and you get 1/12. Like I said, thirds go by 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay. The thirds screw everything up. Again, that's why we don't go by thirds. It's a lot harder to think in thirds than it is, right? What would be 5/12? Where would 5/12 be? Would it be 5/12? Would it be larger than 1/3 or 2/3, or would it be smaller than 2/3 and larger than 1/3, or smaller than 1/3? I mean, it's just a lot harder. So we go by twos. So let's do 7. Let's take 7 16ths. Right? We're going to be 1/16 less than half. That's less than half. How do we know? Because 8 is half of 16. Right, we're going to subtract 8 1/8. Right? We know 1/8 is 2/16, right? Because this would be 8 times 2 would be 16. 2 times 1 would be 2. So we already know it's 2/16, right? If you look at your line, 2/16 make an 8. 2/8 make a quarter. 2 quarters make a half. 2 halves make a whole. So 7 minus 2 equals 5, right? So our answer is 5/16, which puts us how many shy of half? Well, 3/16 shy of half, because 8 is half of 16 and 5 is 3 smaller than 8, right? It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. You just got to think in twos. So let's do another one. I don't have a time. I don't like you saying time. I want to say timeline. I don't have a number line, so I gotta come up with numbers. Let's see. Let's go with. Well, let's go with 10/16. Let me write this down a little lower. I swear I keep getting higher and higher on this board. 10/16 minus let's say half. No, we can't say half. Can we say half? Yeah, we can say half. Right? To get because 10 is larger than half. 10/16 is larger than half. Look on your line. Look on your line. 8/16 would be half, because 8 is half of 16. If 8's half of 16, that means 8/16 is half. 10/16 is larger than half, so we can subtract half, right? So what would these two numbers over here have to be? This would have to be a 16, and this would have to be what? How can we get the 16 here? Right? Well, 8 times 2 is 16, right? So we have our 16, and we have to have 8 up here, right? 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. I'm sorry, I messed that up. Let me fix that. I put an 8 there. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 1 is 8. So now we go straight across, and we have 2/16. Now we have 2/16. So what is 2/16? 2/16 is also 1/8, right? Because 2/16 equal an 8, 2/8 equal a quarter, right? It's the same number, they're just written differently, right? So we end up with 2/16. We already should have known that we were 2/16, right? Because we just got through saying this was 2/16 more than a half. This is 1/8 more than a half. Half, 8/16, look at your line. 8/16 is half. This is 2/16 more than half. So that's an 1/8 more than half. What would be an 1/8 more than a half? 5/8, because 4/8 is half. So this is actually 5/8. We could have brought this down to 5/8 and then just times this by 4, right? Times this by 4 and make it 8 and have 4/8. Either way, we'd still end up with 1/8 as our answer. Huh? See? And I probably got that too high again. Yeah. Now you might be able to see that in the video. You might be able to see that in the video. I hope you can see that in the video. If not, let me do it again here. 10/16, 1/2. Just in case I cut off. It looks like it on there, but it may not be in the video. So what I was saying is, this is 2/16 more than half, because 8 is half of 16, right? My previous videos I did all this, right? About halves. And this would be 5/8, which would be 1/8 more than half, because 4 is half of 8, right? This we could turn into an 8. 4 times 2 equals 8. 4 times, and we'd have 5/8. If we turned that into 5/8, we could have 4/8 and 5/8. And we still end up with 1/8, because we could draw. It's 10/16. 2/16 make an 8, right? 8/16, 10/16. That's 2/16. That's an 8. That's 5/8. And if we turn 5/8, if we turn 10/16 into 5/8, and we turn the half into 4/8, we get 1/8. All right. So anyway, that's how simple and easy it is to subtract fractions. Let's do let's do something like 2/3 minus, I hate doing thirds because it's so hard to think in thirds. 4/12. Right? Remember, thirds go by 6, 9, 12, 15. So we have 4/12. 4/12 is equal. I know 4/12 you're going to say is equal to or the same as 1/3. It is as the same as 1/3. But we're not going by twos here. We're going by thirds. Right? Although you could say 1/3 is a third. It is, right? It's 1/3. So anyway, it would be, the answer would be 1/3. I don't know. It's like I said, I don't like doing thirds, and this is why you don't see things done in thirds. This is why, again, you see sockets and wrenches and bolt heads and nuts and stuff done in twos. 16th, 32nds, 16ths, eighths, quarters, halves, wholes. Or you see them in metric, okay, which go by tens, which there are some metrics that are the same size as the standards, but we're not going to get into metrics here. I don't do metric, all right? I love the American Standard. Well, I hope you liked and enjoyed that video, and if you did, please hit the like, subscribe, and share, and notification bell. It would help me out greatly. And remember, knowledge is a good thing. Truth in knowledge is an even better thing. And true knowledge, that's power.